not a dream. Not a dream. We are using your brain's electrical system as a receiver. We are unable to transmit through consciousness.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with episode 11 of my 22 Shots of Appreciation. Again, VHS 82 apostrophe, and the reason I do this, of course, is it's my little shout out, my opportunity to thank the 22 Shots of Moods and Horror podcast, and the guys, JP Moods, of course, Jeremy, and all the shows and all the work and labor, and it's just my way of giving back a little bit and highlighting some films of my collection that either directly or indirectly are in there as a result of the 22 Shots crew. So there you go. For episode 11, this movie I just cannot get off my mind at all. And of course, it is The Witch, directed by Robert Eggers, 2015, released or distributed by A24. And I could probably, and I could just talk and talk and talk. This film is so rich. I'm going to be as brief as I can because it's not like really a review. I do want to, I saw this in the movie theater when it first came out, and I saw it by myself. And, I have a really good friend. We usually go see films together, but every once in a while, I'll just go see one by myself. But I always tell him, dude, man, I'm heading out to NCG to see, whatever. And I didn't tell him I was heading out to see that film. And it took about 3 days after I watched that movie to finally tell him, in which, of course, he just couldn't believe that, I told him that day when I was heading up there. And 3 days after, because I just didn't know what to think about it. I mean, for those of you who've seen it, the end, of course, I didn't want to have anything to do with the end. I'm sorry. That to me, for a lot of reasons, but it just seemed too abrupt. Everything that just happened, and for what would happen in the very end, it just didn't seem. I don't know what a good word is, plausible enough, or I don't know. It just seemed too. I'm not sure what the right word is, but the film itself, I mean, when you sit for almost 2 hours watching a family self-destruct in this way, I mean, I don't know. It was tough to actually really start formulating my thoughts, but now that we've got time between that and then and here, of course, The Witch, if you haven't got it yet or seen it yet, I know it's on demand. This movie is so packed. Let me I guess throw a few things out right away. The director commentary, which I just listened to yesterday, if you're the kind of person that loves listening to commentaries, but specifically for the technical aspect of filmmaking, in particular that film, then you got to listen to the commentary, because I mean, it was just an overabundance of just the technical aspects of how they made this film, which was great to listen to. But in this type of film, steeped in so much theology, or just such a focus on a religious point of view being externally attacked by, a force that's diametrically opposed to them, and of course what's happening internally, there's just so much to unpack in this film to talk about. And I guess that in of itself, the director commentary, I wanted so bad to hear for specific scenes. I wanted Robert Eggers to just be like, yeah, man, that's what was really eating at me, or that's what I was trying to convey or get across. And there wasn't like hardly any of that in the commentary. It was like, this is why there's three or four candles lit in the lantern and not one, as it would have been more historically accurate. It was a lot of just the technical aspects, and so I was a little disappointed by the commentary. Although, knowing what it is now, I mean, I'll listen to it again. Also, too, to view the film without subtitles is one thing, but to view it with subtitles is something totally different. I I watched it again just a while ago with the subtitles on, and I'm telling you, it was like this whole world just opened up to me in a much broader way, and a lot of things made sense to me that didn't make sense to me before, and so I highly suggest, if you have not watched this film with the subtitles on, watch it with the subtitles. And even without, and then with the commentary, and just start to really. There is so much in this. I know JP gave a review for it, so that's out there for you to look at and listen to. For me, I think when I walked out of that movie theater, I think one of the things I did have on my mind was what the freaking crap was wrong with that family? There just seemed like something was wrong with the family. It wasn't just we're dealing with a Puritanist and specifically a Calvinist determinist view of the world. God controls everything. Man, we have no free will at all in that type of dogmatic view. And so this family that lives within this confines of this view, they have no free will. And in fact, the view conveyed is one of two extremes. On the one side, it's an overemphasis of the victory of Christ, in that, well, there's nothing for us to do, so let's just ride the wave of predestination. It's already been set in stone for us. There's nothing we can do about it. Or the flip opposite, more like a defeatist attitude, in that, so much focus on the devil. And this family is torn between these two extremes, which really opens themselves up to, well, as I've read, in my readings, they are easy pickings for this external threat, this witch that lies beyond the wood. But, I could really just go on and on and on. I mean, my thoughts are just kind of, I think the thing that I really focused on or really thinking about is, the father who does his best, but man, he has got an issue with pride, and pride has a way of distancing ourselves from others, and it gives us this air of superiority that makes us feel like, man, I am here and you are there. And right at the beginning of the film, we're not told exactly why. I don't know if it's good or not good that we don't know why exactly, although I think it might have something to do with the fact that Samuel, the baby, has not been baptized yet. And this is an awful strain on the mother when the baby disappears. And so they're living in a community of believers, fellow believers. Well, he's kind of set himself up above on a higher plateau of holiness. And so the fact that the baby has not been baptized yet makes me really wonder if some of it has to do with that. He wasn't going to allow them to baptize the baby because he didn't think they were holy enough, and therefore they end up at that meeting, in which case the best solution is get out. Which leads me to the other point. We're taking into such length a Puritan family that devotes itself to God so strongly. Yet the Bible is extremely clear not to forsake the community of believers. And they do. They leave. I don't know, where their mistakes keep on getting compounded one after another. If it's initially leaving England, which tears the mom up inside, slowly but surely, it eats away at her. They get to New England, they're a part of this community, it's not good enough for them, and they make that, and you could even see it on the daughter's face, the oldest, when that decision's being determined. She has this look of dread, like, oh, this ain't gonna be good. And then the father, because of his pride, takes his family outside of the confines of the community to the edge of the wilderness, where there lies, unbeknownst to them, a real external threat that takes advantage of just how fragile this family really is. And they are just ripe for something. It reminds me of The Shining, when Jack's character comes into that hotel with all that baggage. He is ripe for the pickings. He is ready to be just absolutely dismantled by the forces that control that hotel. And I love Stanley Kubrick's take on Stephen King's novel. I know Stephen King isn't a fan of it. I am. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, that you take this guy who's already damaged but he's trying to get his life back. And he takes his family, maybe pride too, takes his family into this situation where all that he thought maybe was on the mend inside of him just starts unraveling. And the hotel just completely, the forces of the hotel just, they capitalize on this. And they just start tearing that family up from within. And so here again, I mean, if this movie isn't almost like an offspring of The Shining, I don't know what is. Because instead of the hotel, you've got the edge of the wilderness. You've got the demonic activity coming from within, acting as an external threat, causing there to be a much more amplified internal threat within the family. And you just watch this just, I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just, there's just so much. I mean, you know, I know the Satanists made a big deal about this movie. You know, this is it. This is, you know, this is, we're gonna, this is the off, or I don't know. I can't remember the exact words, but they're promoting it and everything is there. But you know, from the other side of the view, you could take this film too. I mean, take it and use it as a building exercise in terms of how your family's operating. I mean, is your family saturated in love? I mean, are you really, I mean, doing everything you can to be humble, to love on your family, to nurture them, to take care of them, so that they are protected by any external threats that can come in? And not only that, but you know, he goes far at length to talk about this being a folk fairy tale, New England folk fairy tale. And I think it really is, especially if you can watch the movie from within the safety of the community that they leave behind. This is the kind of thing they would teach. You know, here's what can happen if you leave the safety of the community. You're going to be out there in the middle of nowhere and susceptible to anything and everything. And so, I mean, I just think there's a lot here. I think there's a whole lot to unpack. I think this movie is so unbelievably well written, well directed, well choreographed, cinematography, the music, the score, everything about this movie. And the end doesn't have to be the end of all ends. I mean, there's too much to look at from a positive point of view and say, wow, I mean, here's the destructiveness of pride, if we can free ourselves of that. Here's the importance of community and how community can help strengthen a family at its core. I mean, there's just so much in there. But anyways, the film is absolutely gorgeous to look at. It is really depressing. I mean, but sometimes these things are good, because if a film can get inside and shake you up a little bit and get you to want to embrace the better side of your own nature and to work at eliminating the lesser side of your nature, then a film is going to do a brilliant thing. And if this film can do that, I think it's awesome. This movie is absolutely unbelievable. So I'd watch it if you haven't, and just I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll do an addendum to this or something. My time is probably way exceeded itself. But anyways, Robert Eggers' The Witch, 2015. If you haven't seen it yet, watch it. It is a real treat. And anyways, VHS 82 apostrophe. Hit the like button if you like. Leave a comment if you like. And thank you for watching and listening. And just leave it with Go Bills.
One of these days, I'm going to punch you in the face.